So we've recently hung our new calendars. 2026 is finally here, and you know what that means. It's time to make a new list of New Year's resolutions we plan on failing before February. Truly one of the most exciting traditions in modern life. Now, as weird as it sounds, there are some folks among us who actually try to stick to their New Year's resolutions. But as we all know, the fourth law of thermodynamics clearly explains that sticking to your New Year's resolutions, it is impossible. Now, I think it's worthy to ask the question, why are New Year's resolutions all but guaranteed to fail? Obviously, this question has a lot of different answers depending on who's asked, but there are several broad explanations that describe most of us. So here are two different reasons why New Year's resolutions simply don't work. Reason number one, personality traits. While saying I don't have the personality to stick to a New Year's resolution might sound, offensive, it isn't as much of a criticism as you may think. There is one particular personality trait that has the most to do with the likelihood of you sticking to a New Year's resolution, and that is trait conscientiousness. The trait of conscientiousness can be further broken down into orderliness and industriousness. Both of these subtraits are traits that facilitate consistent and disciplined behavior. If someone is high in conscientiousness, they're far more likely to stick with a New Year's resolution. But how conscientious do you need to be to actually stick to one? People who aren't conscientious at all tend not to enjoy routine very much. These are the types of people who may find school difficult without actually finding any of the material too challenging. These people can dedicate themselves to a wide variety of difficult tasks, but they struggle to hold down a repetitive, monotonous job. People with lower conscientiousness tends to need more external motivation to continue pursuing things. Someone of average conscientiousness would be more likely to stick to a New Year's resolution, but sticking to a New Year's resolution in general isn't exactly what the average person is doing. While I can't give precise percentiles, you likely need to be very high in conscientiousness if you want a New Year's resolution to go well. Someone who's both very orderly and very industrious, and who can stick to a schedule for an extended period of time. Now, you can actually find out how conscientious you are by taking a Big Five personality test, but odds are you simply aren't in the top echelon of conscientiousness. Now, does this mean that you're doomed to never successfully stick to a New Year's resolution? No, plenty of people with low conscientiousness are capable of implementing resolutions in their lives. The question is, how do they do that? That brings us to the second reason why some people succeed and most people fail at New Year's resolutions. The second reason is habits. In 1927, a book was published that would have enormous ramifications for the field of psychology. That book was written by Ivan Pavlov, and it had to do with the way he fed his dog. Ivan Pavlov was researching digestion in dogs when he noticed something odd. When one of his assistants came around the dogs, they would begin to salivate, as if they were looking at food that they wanted to eat. This observation gave Pavlov an idea that changed the way he fed his dogs. Now don't worry, no research assistants were harmed in the writing of that book, but Pavlov discovered that he could make his dogs salivate to almost anything even if it wasn't food, provided he exposed them to that stimulus at just the right time. Let's say you want to make your dog salivate to Bach's First Cello Suite in G major. How would you do that? It's actually quite simple. You play that piece moments before you bring them their food. Eventually, the dog associates Bach's beautiful Master Suite with the bowl of kibbles that he so eagerly enjoys. As a result, he begins salivating just by hearing the music before he's ever exposed to the food. This phenomenon is known as classical conditioning. This simple idea was later discovered to have wide-ranging implications. Jean Piaget explored similar concepts in his book Psychology of Intelligence, detailing how when people perceive simple objects, they oftentimes experience or perceive many of the things associated with those objects as well. So how is this even remotely related to New Year's resolutions? The relationship between conditioning and New Year's resolutions is best summarized in Atomic Habits by James Clear. As he puts it, no behavior happens in isolation. Each action becomes the cue that triggers the next behavior.
Habits are solutions to the recurring problems in our environment. Let's say you get done with a long day of work and you come back, you're kind of exhausted. That happens, frequently. It's a recurring problem that you face. How do you solve that problem? One person might solve it by going for a run for 30 minutes. Another person might solve it by playing video games for 30 minutes. Another person might solve it by smoking a cigarette. They all are trying to solve that same core problem. What you find is that, you get to be 20 or 25 or 28, and a lot of the solutions that you have to these recurring problems that you face are solutions that you inherited or that you saw modeled by your parents or your friends or just, whatever you have interfaced with throughout your short life so far. As soon as you realize that your solutions may not be the best solution, it's now your responsibility to try to figure out a different way to do it.
Whenever we set resolutions, it's usually because we want to quit an unwanted behavior or replace it with a more desirable one. For example, we might want to stop watching so much TV and start exercising more. The problem is that unwanted behavior is tied to a wide variety of perfectly mundane environmental cues that we don't have any issues with. In this case, we might watch too much TV simply because we just finished eating our dinner, or because less sunlight is coming into our living room window. Habits are powerful forces that guide our thoughts, desires, and behaviors. They are deeply integrated behavioral patterns shaped by our environment. So while we may think we may know which behavior we want to change, that behavior is often only one part of a much larger system of habits. Without changing our environment that triggers those behaviors, it's all but guaranteed that our habits will become the very chains that keep us from losing that pesky 20 in the gym this year. The way people with average conscientiousness manage to stick to resolutions is by changing their environment, and in so doing, changing their habits. As pessimistic as all of this sounds, there is nothing wrong with New Year's resolutions. In fact, I think it's a great practice to set new goals for yourself at the beginning of every year. But if you've found that New Year's resolutions don't work well for you, it may be worth considering some alternatives. Alternatives to New Year's resolutions usually change the approach to goal setting in one of two ways. The first is a change in how goals are implemented. A common example of this is the bullet journal. I personally use a bullet journal system throughout college, and I wouldn't be exaggerating if I told you that it raised my GPA and earned me thousands of dollars in scholarship money. I think the reason it worked so well for me personally is because I already had a routine. Starting a bullet journal barely changed my daily habits, but it helped me prioritize my goals more effectively. The second way to change your approach to goal setting is by altering the time window of implementation. One approach that comes to mind here is the use of seasonal themes. This is something I currently do, though I usually apply it to a monthly basis rather than a 3-month basis.
Allow me to suggest a gentler idea. Give yourself a theme. Instead of setting yourself up to fail with, I'm going to lose X pounds by next year, or I'm going to read 1 book a week at least, a theme would be something like Year of Reading or Year of Health. Now, if that sounds a bit broad, that's the point. For some things, precision matters. For others, it doesn't. And when trying to build yourself into a better version of yourself, exact data points don't matter. All that matters is the trend line. If the trend is going in the right direction, so are you. Just moving a trend from negative to positive is hard enough without defining falling short of a goal as failure. Heck, even just decelerating the negative is a positive. Is there something you want more of in your life? Something you want less of? Well, life is a branching path, and it's the trend of your decisions, some big, but mostly small, that will get you to more or less. Stuck in a queue? What to do? Well, if it's the year of reading, why not open the book instead of opening the anything else? That's it. You were at a branch and went one way instead of the other.
I like this approach because a month is long enough to make meaningful progress, but short enough to keep the system feeling novel and engaging. There are many more goal-setting systems than just these two, literally thousands. So before you fail your New Year's resolution this year, consider this. Rather than picking goals and hoping that they work for you, why not pick a goal system and see if that works for you instead? Happy New Year's.